everybody, and welcome to Poland Daily Travel in Jelenia Góra. And you'll see above me the symbol of the town. It's called Deer Hill in English, or Deer Mountain. Over here, interesting sculpture. Is a popular, seems like a popular local cafe. This celebrates the first street theater, this crazy sculpture. First street theater, this is from the 80s, from 2013. The first street theater was in the 1980s during the Solidarity times. So theater back then, during Solidarity times, which particularly 70s and 80s, the real moves made in the 80s, theater was a big thing and a big way of protesting against the government. So having a street theater with all kinds of stuff going on, no doubt. So, but you saw me come in through that gate at the beginning, right? And you see the symbol there with the deer. Well, that crossing was made in the early 1900s. It's made to look older, but it's actually only just a little over 100 years. Now here we have the what they call the 7 buildings, and this is a really fine medieval Renaissance square, almost one of the as fine as you'll find in the country, I would say. With some renovation, it could be splendid. At any rate, this is now part of the city government, but each of these 7 houses, count them, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, housed important things in the Middle Ages. You had bread stalls here, bread shops rather. You had baker, apothecary, probably the local doctor who put leeches on you when you were sick or something like that, and anything to do with basic life, basic sustenance went on in these 7 buildings, and they just joined them to make part of the local government in around 1910, just before the First World War. This was a very secluded place, but yet an important trade route between southern Germany and Bohemia, that's the Czechs, and Sudetenland, all of those places. Some of those names familiar to you from 20th century history, and going further to the east. So this was an important town, and it's the first most important of the mountain towns down in this area, the biggest. Today, I don't know, maybe 70,000 people. At any rate, it's beautifully preserved, these buildings, and not destroyed. Apparently not destroyed. There must have been fires, but not destroyed in the wars, which I find amazing. Okay, enjoy the trailer. Be right back. Different location. I'm just standing here and really looking at this amazing place. Apparently, though, I knew there was something not quite right. because apparently, even though it wasn't destroyed during the Second World War, the communists did allow it in the following, say 20, 30 years to fall into decay, and even dismantled some of the buildings. But it's been very, very well restored. I'm sure they had records of what it used to look like, and you know, architectural plans, things like that. Must have been about pictures, paintings. But I can tell you this, Hirschberg, as part of, well, it's been part of many different empires. The Austrians had it for a while too. The Habsburgs, Bohemians would have had a go. Poles would have had it at one time. Prussia had it for quite a long time. It was given back to Poland at the end of World War II. But I'll tell you, this is a very interesting comment. In 1800, John Quincy Adams, who was the ambassador in Berlin at the time, and the future president of the United States, I believe you'll find he was the second president of the United States. His son would have been the sixth, I think. He visited here. He visited Hirschberg back in 1800. The president of the United States came here to this beautiful town square and to the surroundings. And I have to tell you, as you're going to see, as long as the weather holds, we're going to have some amazing stuff for you for the next few shows. But he came here and he said, this quote, he wrote it, "Nothing can be more beautiful than the location of Hirschberg, a beautifully built city with numerous splendid buildings in a valley surrounded by hills on all sides, with a magnificent view of the giant mountains," which is another name for the Carconoje Mountains, the giant mountains. Hell, it must have reminded him somewhat of the mountains of the Appalachian Mountains in the United States. Perhaps of, although he was from Massachusetts, it may have reminded him a bit of Virginia and Maryland, and Western Maryland, and things that he'd seen before. There is a familiarity to me as well, but the buildings, no. I mean, you have nothing like this in the United States, and I'm not meaning to compare it in that way. But certainly the setting is very beautiful. And you can see that at one time, not only was this merely a prosperous place, but an important place. And the fact that it's been redone reminds me a bit of the way they've redone Zamość on the border with Ukraine, which is a beautiful Renaissance town. Although I believe you'll find that this was restored to 17th century, early 18th century style, very much in the German style that you'll find in the Hanseatic cities. You'll find it in Danzig, you'll find it in northern Poland, you'll find it in various cities around the Baltic. The same kind of burgher style, Hanseatic style, you know, whatever you want to call it. At any rate, it's beautiful. We're losing the light, so we're going to have to go. But it's been a fun ride down here, and we have a lot more in store from this, as John Quincy Adams said, this beautiful setting. See you tomorrow night on the next episode. I'm Will Richardson. Like us on Facebook. Go ahead and like us on YouTube.